Good good morning and welcome to Better Thyself segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Nowadays, people are simply enamored of startups, and startups have earned, raised funds of a score of billions of dollars. So this sort of a thing excites people. And most of the startups are riding high and they cause the adrenaline to rush in the veins of prospective entrepreneurs. But what is forgotten is that for every one successful startup, there are scores, if not hundreds, of failed ones. The success story of one does not mean in any way that any startup would be successful. And the people who want to set up startups, they are then frustrated, disappointed because they fail. As a matter of fact, the force behind the notable success stories is capability to have an idea and to execute it. Of course, then I coined this word Idexicution. Ideas, execution, idea and execution. Reading the story in the newspapers, it seemed that money and success are flowing into startup ecosystem. And there are more than 570 deals which have been successful. Agreed. But were they successful by themselves? No. They were successful because the entrepreneur came up with an idea which was different. And not only that, hundreds of people can have that idea. And they may not be able to execute it. As a matter of fact, looks like that the new pandemic, new normal favors startups the most. The stellar listing of these startups in the stock market has become the center of attraction, the cynosure of the youth. Well, for a really committed, sincere and young startup, reading stories of these stars of startups, is a booster dose of motivation. However, drafting a comparative benchmark with these super successful stories, it invites stress, frustration, and ultimate depression. Other achievements must never be copy-pasted as your goals. That's the problem with the people. They think that if X has been successful, then everybody would be successful. It's not copy and paste. Copy and paste can at the most be part of the rat race. They can never be leaders. You may never know the struggle saga these startups have gone through. The poster boys do not and cannot understand the high level of desperation they spread around the corners of the industry. The flower, if you look at it, the lotus flower especially, is beautiful. But look at the mud beneath. And majority of the people say, well, we want the flowers, but they don't want to touch the mud. And lotus without mud is not possible. So my suggestion to the beginners is that they must not get swayed by the cover page stories. The simple reason is that what you see in the media reports is not even 5% of the tip of the effort and struggle iceberg. I call it an iceberg because only 5% is visible, and not even 5% in many cases. But 95 plus percent is hidden. That saga of struggle, heartbreaking, bone breaking, back breaking, is the real success story which nobody talks about. There was one study conducted that more than 90% of the startups, for example in India, fail within first 5 years of their inception. So even if you start up in a great way, in 5 years you are out. So there are two crucial aspects for startup to succeed. First is the idea, and the second is the execution. I call it Idexicution. It's a combination of idea and its execution, because you cannot separate the idea from the execution. So first come to idea. When I say that these front page young celebrities and unicorns must not aspire you, I mean that your idea and passion must be the core source of your inspiration, not the success story of XYZ. No, your inspiration. That is your idea, novel, new, dazzling. As a matter of fact, the unwavering love for an idea can itself be a cause for failure in many cases. Look, this is apparently a paradox, but it really is not. What you think to be an idea may not be an idea. It might look to be a beautiful dream, but do not forget that the beautiful dreams can become horrible nightmares. As a matter of fact, people misjudge the idea for the venture. Idea can be translated, but not all ideas are practical. Idea slaves may not live long. That's the main thing. Be flexible. One major mistake made by many beginners is believe, I am the first to have this idea. And that is the first cause of failure. Even if you are the first one. Even then, if you can't execute it, it's of no use. The fact is that invariably, you are never the only one to have the idea, to have conceived that conception. There are others also who might be thinking on the same lines. The only thing is who is able to execute it. And that's a good news, because if you come up with an idea, it means you are an entrepreneur. You then should do, and what you can do is research the people who have similar thoughts but could not get it going. Dig out the reasons behind their failure, and then you might get the secret to the success of the idea. The same idea that you have, if you study, if you research, you will find that at least half a dozen people had that idea and they failed. So identify the causes of their failure so that you avoid those pitfalls. And if you have studied the failed startups, you will find that in 90% cases, the causes are identical. So once you have this seen that idea is not to be taken at its face value, then comes the execution. The proof of pudding lies in eating. The worth of idea is if it can be implemented. Idea by itself has no meaning. As I said, it's a chimera, it's a dream, unless it's translated into reality. Now, how effectively and efficiently you can get the ball rolling is the major difference. And I can tell you that it's not difficult. It is possible. First thing when you have got to do the startup is funding. Now people always say, well, I have an idea and I'll go for the crowdfunding, I'll go for the financial institution funding. Yes, it's important. But funding begins at home. As charity begins at home, funding also begins at home. Before searching the financiers outside, test if you can sell that idea to those who know you better. Preferably, begin with a self-finding first. Check if you can rationally convince your relationships and friends to lend you a small amount of money for that idea. If you can find 5 to 10 people who are convinced by your idea and are willing to chip in, it may be a minor amount, immaterial. It's a commitment that's more important. Then it's a clear signal for you to go ahead. But even if you can't get 5 people in your social circle, in your friends, in your relations, who will chip in, then you can be sure that outsiders are not going to catch it. Even in crowdfunding, are you aware that every day more than 70 people start the crowdfunding, and one crowdfunding that is successful comes in 1 in 3 months or 4 months. So look at the percentage of the failures. So once you have said and decided the funding and you have been successful at home, then go ahead. Second, be a good sales expert. Now, a real good idea, however great your idea may be, will click only if you have got a customer to buy it. The mantra of success is, quote, sales, unquote. If you cannot sell it, first you have got to sell it to your relations. Then you have to sell it to the financial experts. And once it's executed, you have to sell the product. Whether the customer is a retail customer or a wholesaler or a technology, you have to have a great technology. But if there is no buyer, what shall you do? So, the mantra is, after funding at home, then financially, you go up and up. It is a phasal funding. Then be a sales expert. At least in the initial phase of your venture, get involved in the process of sales. It will give you valuable insights into the product or service and help you understand your prospective customers better. Owners I have seen who have someday engaged in frontline sales eventually turn out to be best strategists. They know how to manipulate and reset the minds of the buyers. Whether, again, as I said, is a buyer can be industry, buyer can be technology, it can be a lab, it can be the government, it can be the common people. And third thing, most important, be shameless. Absolutely. You are doing something, you are not committing a crime. So be shameless. You know, in Hindi they say, जिसने की शर्म उसके फूटे कर्म. He who is feeling shame is going to be unlucky. Be it sales, be it operations, be it logistics, human resources, whichever function. Never hesitate to ask for help. Asking for help is the most important thing. Asking for assistance, advice. You may not accept the advice, but ask for it. And quite possible, in a plethora of advice, you might get a nugget of gold. You might find a needle in haystack. Ask for support, ask for help, ask for advice. Be shameless. Ask for money, of course. And then the fourth one, extremely important, love failure. Be prepared to fail. Not that hope for failure, hope for the best and be prepared for the worst. We all plan for success, that's the problem, but never prepare ourselves to face failures. When I set up my consultancy and we used to prepare TEFRs, I told my staff, I said, look here, each TEFR must have a chapter, the risk factors. Let the entrepreneur know where the risk is. Because he's going to invest money and he's depending on you. So we were the first to initiate this process of the risk factors. Everybody gives IRR, return on investment, internal rate of return and everything. There's a market. It's very easy to do it. But when you identify the risk factors, look at these are the risk factors, and then this is the way to overcome them. So you are prepared for all eventualities, plan B, plan C, plan D. So, thanks to inappropriate understanding of the law of attraction, everyone imagines a heroic victory. And heroic victory is not always there. Visions come true only with conviction, not only with visualization. You can visualize that you are very successful, that you have become the richest man of the world. Nobody stops you. But how are you going to do it? Visualization is great, but realization is much more important. Do not forget that failure is as good as success. Failure will help you to learn more, be wiser, and find a better path ahead. Respectfully embrace failure in the way. So love failure. And the fifth, appreciate yourself. Now this is the biggest thing. I've seen people always say, well, I'm humble. Don't be. Realize that you are doing something which others could not do. Not everyone in the market would be able to appreciate and understand your product. And that's fine, absolutely. The whole world is not your market. You are one segment, in one segment. If you can make a mark there, that's okay. When I again, let me tell you, was looking to overturn an organization, I said, look here, be sure that you attend to one segment first before going universal. And that's what all the luxury goods do. Similarly, the startups. Do not think that 7 billion people are going to be your market. It might be just 5 people. That's okay. So, but then you think that what you are doing, nobody else could do. So, never let someone else criticism of you dismantle your self-esteem. Love yourself. Respect yourself. And that's the way to success. Appreciate yourself and stay confident. I can tell you, there's no dearth of the carping critics. Every successful man has dozens of yelping dogs running on his heels. People are jealous. People are envious. And when they criticize you, don't forget, they are criticizing you because you have been successful where they have been a failure. So you should feel confident and happy. When a powerful idea marries efficient execution, the offspring, the child of that marriage is success. So these 5 principles, if you adopt, would enable you to frame an idea and execute it. So these 5 steps of execution would be the supporting pillars of your startups, and that is what you need. So better thyself as a startup operator, as an entrepreneur. Follow these 5 steps and be sure success is yours. Thank you. Hi.